I'm, for one thing, Jim, completely delighted to see that history is appreciating the accomplishments of George H.W. Bush. And you know, that started before he died. I can remember 3 or 4 years before he died when I was with him, and I said, you know, Jeffy, I called him Jeffy because that's Spanish for chief. I always called him president when he was president and when we were anybody else was in our company. But after we got out, I had a tough time calling him George anymore, so I called him Jeffy. I said, you know, Jeffy, I'm delighted to see history.
You called him Jeffy?
Jeffy. That means chief.
Yeah, I know.
For you. It's
yeah, I got it.
So I said, I'm delighted to see history giving you credit for what you accomplished before you're gone. He said, is it? I said, yeah, it sure is. And that's how modest he was, of course, but he was a really incredible president from the standpoint of his accomplishments. Some of that got hidden by virtue of the fact that he was a one-term president. Mm-hmm. But he was a very consequential president in those 4 years, particularly in foreign policy.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Secretary Tillerson?
Well, I think, and I am too pleased that the recognition of the accomplishments of our 41st president are really being brought into focus because they were extraordinary for the 4 years that he served. And I think we were reflecting at the table a little bit too on how he handled the whole dissolution of the Soviet Union and the ending of the Cold War, and the stories have been told about not dancing on the wall. And I think that level of understanding of your counterpart and longtime adversary and understanding the culture of the Soviet people and what they were coming out of really shows his instincts and his insights of how to set the stage for a future relationship. And I learned and took some of those lessons away from watching him and how I dealt with foreign leaders, and in particular how I've dealt with Russia and how I've dealt with President Putin over the years, about not ever putting them in a position of embarrassment, because it's part of their culture. And if you want to win and you want to have a relationship where you're going to deal with difficult issues, I think it's important to keep that in mind. And it was a lesson I learned early on by just watching how he handled that.